Hi, welcome to DogZone, your weekly grab of greyhound gratification. We have got a big show for you because I know it was last Friday, but I'm still coming down from the Golden Chase, and someone who was there with me to experience the night, the crowd, the atmosphere, the action was Phillipa Morris. Hi to you, Phillipa, straight into it. What's your reaction sort of coming out of Friday night?
Oh, it was just a fantastic evening. I haven't had an atmosphere like that on course for some time, Rosso. I know it was dual code, but there were so many patrons out there watching the greyhounds and all other festivities going on course as well. It was a pleasure to be there, and man, it was fast-paced. So
it was the Manawatu Raceway. It was the third edition of the Gold Cup Festival across the three codes, and the dual code, as Phillipa mentioned there, with the harness. The greyhounds started early, and I guess the thing was, Phillipa, that the crowd got there early for the greyhounds as well. It's not like they rolled in late, and that was probably the key to the atmosphere that we experienced during. So we get James Sullivan there eating a sausage. That could put you off your food. Phillipa, the fact that the crowd were there early for the greyhounds really kicked it for the code.
It certainly did, and as you've seen there, sausage eating contest, that was probably drew more of a crowd almost than the actual greyhounds themselves. But yeah, it was great to see everyone there supporting the greyhounds, and especially the match racing, which of course was a hit on track.
Yes, $28,000 stake. There were $2,000 for the fastest opening sectional, $2,000 for the closing sectional. There was 6 weeks of qualifying leading into it. It seems like the Palmerston North Greyhound Racing Club did a great job of promoting this and getting people there, and of course the dual code's obviously going to help that too, Phillipa. But do you see the potential for this to continue to grow in its current format?
I think so. I think it attracts big punters in the head-to-head racing, and it's a point of difference to watch, you know, what these dogs can do, who's faster, if one leads, is one going to catch it, instead of seeing that week in, week out racing where we have 8-dog fields. I think it is a good point of difference, and Rosso, as I've said to you before, I'd like to see it maybe over the distance at some stage as well.
Look, it takes some explaining. We've got the Amazing Chase, of course, which is around the country, and it moves around the country, and it's in Christchurch this year, and it's on the 2-turn tracks. Manukau hosted the first one, Hattrick the second. This is a regional one, but look, there was a significant number of nominations, 7,600 collected in terms of donations, with 200 per dog. And Phillipa, the club made it up to $10,000 and have handed that over to the council, who have now distributed it to charities. So the club doing some really good work here, working in with the local community.
They certainly are, and you have to give it to Paul Freeman, who is the president there. He's not only organised this day, but the Commentators' Day as well. And I think, you know, Palmerston North Club's really doing the thing to try and get this racing off the ground. And if he keeps the council, Rosso, you know, involved, I think it's just going to be a plus that maybe we can do it again next year for maybe even more of a stake. Yes,
well, Paul Freeman was telling me that the stake could potentially increase dramatically next year. The harness meeting at the moment is down for the Thursday night next year, which would make it not a dual code. It's essential that that is changed and that it is a dual code so that you can keep the three codes across those 2 days, Phillipa, because the Gallops Day was excellent as well. I was lucky enough to be on course there at Awapuni. Lots of people went into making that day, Paul Freeman pointing out, and getting things to run as close to time as was possible, right down to the scheduling. And we saw in that sausage competition, James Sullivan, he was a key in some of the scheduling, as was Ian Walls from the racing board. These are people who are unheralded behind the scenes that people don't know, but they have all contributed to what has been a very successful night on Friday. Now, what were the final standings? We had 6 weeks of qualifying, and Robson was the 8th fastest qualifier, but when it came to the night and the 4 match races, Robson was the top qualifier and winner for Peter Ferguson, who will join us shortly, 25 and 78, narrowly over Penny Mac, who, turning for home, looked to have that 25.78 undercover, but he wasn't quite fast enough up the straight, 25.81. Ask King Jeff and Big Time Levi, who looked suited to match racing, filled 3rd and 4th. Blazin' Carter, the fastest opening sectional, ended up 5th. Fusion Cronulla, All About Space, and Big League Diva all played their part, which we're about to look at again here as we take in the 4 match races. And the first one, Phillipa, well, it was Robson, and he was an outsider despite a $2,000 bet on him. He was out to $2.10 come match race start time, but he had this under control right from the start.
He did. When he pounced out like that, he was always going to be hard to beat, and boy did he set up the time standard though. When he clocked that time, 25.78, we knew that was going to be hard to beat, and he actually had the fastest run home as well, Rosso, 7.83, so he took out, of course, the bonus too for the fastest run home.
Yeah, that was another $2,000 for Peter Ferguson and part owner Ian O'Neill. We thought that Ask King Jeff would be a really good shot, and Big Time Levi as well, at the closing sectionals, and Ask King Jeff was certainly good enough here to win this and to run down Blazin' Carter. But 2,000 for Blazin' Carter here in the first of the coal match races. Philippa, Blazin' Carter threw in a 9.08, but he wasn't strong enough to hold out Jeff.
No, he wasn't. He had to be favourite for that early bonus section, didn't he, Blazin' Carter? But he always kind of just fades around the straight there, and that's what happened. Asking Jeff, being the stronger dog, did get home and was the winner of the match races, as you said, Rosso, who was favourite to do so.
And then Big Time Levi, we thought we might see something similar to that in the second of the all-coal match races, and indeed we did, with Big Time Levi running down All About Space. She certainly got off the lids nicely, but Levi sort of always looked like that he had her in his sights.
Certainly did. He was close enough to her here on the bend. You think he was going to run her down the straight. He did. She can be a strong dog, so it was still a really good run there from Levi, and he did clock a 7.89, a run home, which was the second fastest there in behind Robson.
And then we came to the last heat, and all eyes were on Penny Mac, and of course we thought that Big League Diva might be fast enough to record the fastest opening sectional, but Penny Mac beat her there. She didn't have a great preparation leading into it. She did the very best she could. Went through in a 9.16, and when he went through the second mark in a 17.91 fastest, Philippa, I thought it was his.
Yeah, he actually went faster than Robson in that mid-section, but he just didn't finish it off like Robson did. Still a very close finish and a good run there from Penny Mac, though.
So ultimately he came up 3/100ths of a second short, and it meant that Robson took it out, and he was at $9.90 and $2 in the overall market over Penny Mac, who started as the favourite, and Ask King Jeff third, ahead of Big Time Levi. 25 and 78 the winning time for Robson, which funnily enough was exactly at the same time as Ask King Jeff, who was the fastest across the 6-week qualifying period. In the sectionals, Philippa, no surprises really. Blazin' Carter or Big League Diva, we thought for the opening sectional it was 9.08, but the closing sectional, Robson to do it in a 7.83 over Levi in an 89 and Ask King Jeff in a 90, because that's the adjusted times for those dogs because they didn't lead to that point. Really good effort from Robson, a deserved overall winner. And that meant that Peter Ferguson and Ian O'Neill were the successful owners of the City of Palmerston North Golden Chase winner in Robson, and we welcome in Peter Ferguson, who is the trainer of the dog at Cambridge. Peter, congratulations. Just wondering if you could describe your emotions on Friday night when you were watching the other 3 match races after your dog had set up a 25.78 time.
It was pretty exciting, Rosso. Firstly, like when he ran the time he did, as I said to you last week, I was confident that he could go quicker, and once he did that, I was very proud of him to start with. So I thought that, you know, we've done our job, but obviously it was up to the rest of the dogs. We couldn't, where we were standing over the other side, we didn't really have any communication or hear anything, so we didn't really know the next 2 heats straight away. But then I walked around to get changed from it. I watched the last heat over the fence, and yeah, when it came up at 25.80 and we were waiting, that was pretty nerve-wracking.
You've had some nerve-wracking experiences in harness racing, Peter. You've experienced some elite-level highs there with a couple of Auckland Cup winning drives on horses like Kate's First and Mimu Chacho. I'm just kind of wondering, is it the same sort of adrenaline level and feeling to training a dog to win a big race like this to that, or is it something completely different again?
Oh, look, to be honest with you, Rosa, it's absolutely completely different. You know, when I'm driving horses at the races, you don't get the nervousness, the excitement, the adrenaline, because you're concentrating on the job you're doing, driving a horse. I'd much rather drive a horse than sit in the stand and watch one. So that's where the complete difference comes when you put your dog in the lids. You know, when they open, there's nothing you can do about it, and that's where the excitement and the adrenaline takes over.
Peter Pip-Pierre, I've also got a question for you. How did you end up with Robson in your kennel?
When Greg Hall was here in New Zealand, a mate of his rang him from Perth that he'd dealt with in the past and said that he had a dog that he just thought had a lot of ability, but he was just worried about he just wasn't putting in without the finish on, on the catching pen and that. And but he always he rated him as a lovely dog, and so. But a negotiation and on Greg's recommendation, we ended up buying him. And I promised Ian that the next dog that came in he would get first crack at. And obviously he had a look at him and he liked him as well. So consequently, I didn't have to do too much else. But really, it's a big thanks to Greg, as many of the dogs in our kennel that have come from Australia on his recommendation. And we can only trust his judgment. He's not been far wrong so far.
Peter's a younger half-brother to Monster Fish, and I'm just wondering whether he showed straight off as soon as he got to you the ability that he had, the potential that he had, or is he sort of exceeding your expectations?
Oh, I think he's been a work in progress, Rosso. Like we didn't, we were under no illusions. Obviously he was a nice dog when he arrived, and we trusted the guy's judgment, but. He just got better and better, and his run homes have always been very good. To be honest, he was pleasantly surprising when we actually lined him up at the races because his trials had just been sort of okay. But basically from the time he lined up at the races the first time, he's just got better and better.
Peter, with Robson, what are your future plans for him? Do you look ahead now to the Derby and the likes of that?
Oh, absolutely. We're just going to take one step at a time. It's, Derby on our back doorstep. That's been the aim all along, even before the Golden Chase came along. I actually had to go through the book and look at what feature races are coming up. Never been in that position before. So, it was good to, to have a dog of that calibre that we can look forward to races, some big races for going forward.
Peter, what attracted you to the Golden Chase? Because you've had to make a number of trips with you and Jamie Pruden, I know, has come down a few times too, of course, with 4 dogs that you nominated. So what attracted you to it, and was Robson kind of the one that you mainly thought might win it?
Firstly, attracted it to us. I'd planned probably not as in the near future to start travelling to Palmy a bit more often, because I think a lot of my dogs are suited to the one-turn track. So the plan was to start going to Cambridge, to go into Palmy more often. Obviously, when the Golden Chase came along, that sort of pushed us to do that quicker. And so we nominated 4 dogs. Was Robson the reason we went? No. Okay. He was down the track. There was just more because he had ability, and we thought the experience would do him good. To be honest, the one that Ian and I owned, Thrilling Billy, was actually our main aim because he does solo trial very, very good. But yeah, he had a hiccup after his first start down there, and we struggled to get him fit enough to be competitive. So, but that's just the way the racing goes.
Peter, one of the 4 you nominated was a dog called Odd Knock Anki, and I have to ask you about this dog because he got a tricep muscle injury on February the 11th. Then after his 21-day stand down, you solo trialled him at Manawatu, and he went about 100 metres and jogged back. Then last week, this is his first performance since, he's run down a dog called Spring Mechanic, who's won 2 from 2 at Addington and set a grade record. Tell us about this dog, Odd Knock Anki, and how you turned him around.
I don't think it was so much turning him around. It was just not taking him back to the place he hates. It's very unfortunate because he's very limited now as to where I can race him, because we're just not quite sure whether it's the Lewis system or what. But look, I mean, I'm not that stupid. I nominated him for a reason, and the reason is he can run. And it was just a bit unfortunate. He hurt himself that first time, slipped off the mat coming out, and then hurt himself into the first corner. We trialled him again in between time, and he was okay. And then that solo trial day, he didn't want a bar of it. So, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to go back to Palmy and race because it's just too risky. But look, he's a dog with a lot of ability. He had a ticket when he arrived, and Neil Stain sent him to us, who sent us a few dogs to race through Greg, and he sent him to us on just whatever we wanted to do because he saw ability. And so Michelle Northcott and Wendy bought him after we got him going. And, he's a dog with a fair bit of potential, but he's a bit of a doofus. And, it's a little bit unfortunate, but I probably won't be able to bring him back to Palmy.
Look, Peter, we know you're dual code busy, so thanks for taking your time out and chatting to us. Congratulations again. Tremendous performance from you, your kennel, your family, and, of course, Robson.
Yeah, thanks, Rosso. Look, you touched on the family and that. Look, it's a team effort at home. I mean, I haven't seen anything today. I've left at 5 this morning, won't get home until 10 tonight. But it's a team effort. Jamie Pruden's a big part of that, and Wendy and Dylan and Joe and Amy and Danny Lang coming for Fed Up for us when we were down at Palmy so we could all be part of the race the other day. So, some lovely people around us, and big thanks to all of them. And the win means just as much to them as it does for us, that's for sure.
Thank you, Peter. Peter Ferguson's there. He's driven, around 2,000 harness winners, a couple of Auckland Cup winners, and he trained his first greyhound winner July 16th, 2016 with So Over It that actually ended up in Phillipa Morris's mum's kennel, Carol. And he shared in a winner of the Railway back in 2002, Britannica, so it's not an overnight sensation, Peter in the greyhound code, but he's starting to kick goals as a trainer there. Now, other races we need to touch on from Friday night, Philippa. We better go to the consolation of the Golden Chase because it had a stake of over $10,000. And Diddley came off box 4 like he has for 2 Group 1 wins, ran down his kennelmate Waitohi who leads here in box 1. Again, another very brave performance from this dog who is also a Derby aspirant.
Certainly was. It was a game effort, really. I don't know if he's going to run her down here, Waitohi. She's a strong bitch as well, and even Fair Dodger out wide, but he was dug in tenaciously, and good to see him win again on the one-turn truck, Rosso, heading up to the Derby.
Yeah, he's won 5 from 11 there now, and as you say, into the Cambridge Derby now, alongside Robson and 1 or 2 other dogs we're going to look at shortly as well. He ended up paying $1.90 there, but he opened at $3.10. I know they've had a lot of issues with Waitohi. Hopefully they can still get her down to Addington for the Oaks. She is a litter sister to Diddley. Gee, the syndicate had a great time there. Also on the undercard, Philippa, Big Time Shine stepped to the 457 metres. She led up here in the black and white in 9:04, which is one of the fastest opening sectionals we've ever recorded at Manawatu, and of course 400ths of a second faster than Blazon Carter.
Yeah, this was phenomenal. I wasn't sure if she was going to see out the 457 metres, and yes, Big Time Mia was slightly catching her at the end, but for her to set up a 9:04 and go on with the job and clock a 25:83, which would have put her third in the Golden Chase, was a huge performance there by Big Time Shine.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if that didn't wow us with Big Time Shine, and I think we have been wowed over the last few weeks, she's run 17:26, for example, at Hattrick. Let's have a look at her on Monday when the weather got pretty ugly and the track got quite a bit slower. And this is Big Time Pete, the track record holder for 4:10, who goes to the lead. And Philippa, what happens next is quite breathtaking.
Yes, I thought when Big Time Pete got to the front, race was over, she wasn't going to beat him. For her to run past him like this, not only run past him though, Rosso, it went by about 4 lengths to beat him there. And I'd say if the track wasn't so rain affected, she may have run the track record there that day.
Oh, I'm not sure how she ran 23:28 to be frank, and the track record's 23:15. Remember too that Big Time Pete won over the 457 metres last week and is a potential Derby prospect as well. She's won 6 in a row now, and there's no sign of her letting up. And the other thing, Philippa, is that now she has that extra ability perhaps to get a longer distance as well.
Yes, well, she had a season, didn't she? And she came back in February, took a couple of runs to get her fitness back, you would say, and then she just looks unbeatable at the moment. She races again on Friday, so we'll see off box number 3 at Hattrick.
We certainly will. She's the talk of the Central Districts at the moment is Big Time Shine. We did preview New Zealand Racing Series Advanced Final last week at Addington Raceway, but what we didn't predict, Philippa, was Joe Bonanza posting his first win at Addington against dogs like Double Speed. Now he's in the gold. Double Speed's black and white, and the white rug there is Mr. Matt. Double Speed, Mr. Matt were the favourites. Joe Bonanza, because of his record at Addington, was paying $23 the tote.
Yeah, this was a bit of a head scratcher, I have to say. Joe Bonanza getting underneath Hankenstein and Double Speed. I thought once those two dogs were out in front, they would be running the Quinella, but no, Joe Bonanza runs his, what you could probably say, his career best 8 there at Addington and takes it out for Team McInerney at 23.10 there, Rozzo.
Yeah, well, congratulations to John and also to part owner Mark Thompson, who's got a good number of dogs with John McInerney. Joe Bonanza's actually raced twice since. He ran second at Ascot on Sunday and then fourth at Fulbury Park on Tuesday. It's been a busy time down there. Spring Mechanic's a dog we touched on when we were chatting with Peter Ferguson, because Peter's dog Odd Knock Anki had run Spring Mechanic down when they took Spring Mechanic to Cambridge last week, Jean and Dave Fahey and owner Jeff Bate, because although he's sort of born late in the season, he is a Derby prospect potentially, but this was him on debut. Spring Mechanic, Philippa, running a ridiculously fast time, 29.96 for a new maiden record at Addington.
Yeah, sensational win, wasn't it? And he just went to the front and run away from them, and that was the last 30-second time there, Rozzo. So everything now, dogs have to clock under 30 seconds to try and break those records at Addington. Just shows, I suppose, how much greyhound racing has evolved over the years and how much faster and the more quality dogs that we're getting.
Yes, now Spring Mechanic ran to the back mark in 17.63 there, which is just breathtaking. He won again on Tuesday at Addington. He clocked a 30.33, which was the fastest of the day. He looked vulnerable at the top of the straight, but he kicked on quite solidly. Look, that Cambridge run, I know he was beaten, but he went from a maiden win straight into a Class 1 and 2 there, Philippa, and on a brand new track. And you've trained dogs, you know how difficult that can be, so I don't think we write him off on that.
I don't think so. I think dogs tend to need to have a look at a track, especially one like Cambridge. It's a one-turn track, but it also has no fence, unlike Manawatu, so it's quite wide and open, and some dogs can get a little bit lost, so I certainly wouldn't discount him off that run. Maybe when Dave takes him back up there again and Jean go him again, I think.
Well, Derby heats next week, and while we're talking about potential Derby dogs, Philippa, we have to talk about thrilling talk, because if you right up a market at the moment, as good as these heats in the field's going to be, this is the dog you'd have to price up as favourite. This is him winning as $1.10 on the tote here. His 16th win from 21 starts, and remarkably, Philippa, the third time that he's clocked 25.42.
Yes, and he's done it in different sections too. The first time he went 5.78 early, almost identical the next time out, 5.79. And his run home the first time, 6.93, but he actually went 6.82. So that last one just shows he maybe got a little bit stronger at the end. His midsection, Rozzo, was only 18.60 compared to his 18.49. So even though he ran the exact same time, he did it a little bit differently on both of those occasions.
He's the Waikato Classic winner and a leading chance for the Derby. The heats are next week, the 11th of April, final on the 18th, and I know you will be there on track for that final for Trackside Live. Now, we have been tracking the progress of Bago Bye Bye, who won the New Zealand Cup for Jean and Dave Fahey back in November, but of course he went back to Australia. And he won a heat of the Australian Cup and he ran fourth in the final. They were slightly dodgy up the straight and the Stipes. Had a wee chat to Darren Russell, the current trainer of Bago Bye Bye. But here, Philippa, he has gone to Albion Park in Queensland, 710 metres. He's won by over 12 lengths in a time of 41.46, which isn't all that far outside the great Tornado Tears track record.
Just shows the ability he's got too, and it's actually good to see because he was on the bunny, on the lure right from the start there, way out in front too. So if he had any mind issues, he certainly didn't show it on this occasion, and boy, he looks like he could be a class sprinter and a distance dog in Australia if he keeps that up.
Yeah, look, it's amazing. Let's hope that they can maintain that sort of form. During the Winter Carnival up there in Queensland, they've got the Group 3 Winter Chase at the end of May over the 710. Then the Group 1 Gold Cup for 110,000. Tornado Tears won that last year and set a new record, which he subsequently beat in the Superstars Invitational at Group 3 level. Now this year, that's going to be on June the 20th. So there's three very big distance races there for Bago Bye Bye if things go well, Philippa. But of course, those races will again attract the likes of Tornado Tears.
They will, and we know how good Batman is his nickname, and it'll be hard for Bago Bye Bye to come up and match him, but boy, if he does anything like that, he's going to give it a good go.
Philippa, we've had, a great deal of joy and excitement out of greyhound racing this week, but we've also had a very sad week with a number of bereavements, and we'll touch on some now. Obviously, you were on the show today and we're at Manawatu on Friday. Initially, that was going to be Andy McCook, and unfortunately, Andy's mother-in-law, Adelaide Jobson, passed away last week, and her funeral was on Saturday. Now, I knew Adelaide from the mid-80s when I first went to QE2 Park, and Adelaide was there with her late husband, Albie, and their daughters, Janine. Now Janine McCook, of course, a prominent trainer there in Christchurch, and their other daughter, Anne, who was the track curator at Addington for a long time. And what I would say about those times, greyhound racing was very different then. Families like the Jobsons were stalwarts of greyhound racing who made it what it is today. Things were all volunteer back then, and those people put in such hard work. And I really miss Adelaide, and our sincere condolences with Janine and Anne, obviously Andy as well, and all of Adelaide's friends. These days I only got to see her sort of once a year at the New Zealand Cup, and I'll really miss her this November, Adelaide not being there. On Monday, Philippa, we wore black armbands as a mark of respect to Terry Downey, who died at the age of 77, and he died over the weekend, and Terry would be someone you saw at the races many a time.
Yes, I certainly did, Rozo, and serious condolences to his family, especially Lisa, that we used to see there all the time handling his greyhounds, and it's a deep loss to the CD.
Yeah, it certainly is. Looking across to where Terry normally sits on Monday, it just seems strange not seeing him there. He trained a small team out of Shannon, but years and years ago, decades ago, he actually had dogs down in Christchurch when QE2 was in operation. Another sudden loss of someone who we haven't seen on the racetracks for a few years, but David Schofield passed away suddenly just late last week. David was only 45 years old, and 20 years ago he was a leading young light. He won the National Strike Rate Trainers Premiership in 97, 98 and had a score of good dogs that he trained along with his father Dennis. And in the late 90s, it was a dog called Smoke and Prince who won over 40 races. In the early 2000s, it was Big Sam Jr. This is him winning the 2005 New Zealand Cup. And he ended up being the Greyhound of the Year for 2005 and 2006. And David was involved in scores of good greyhounds. These are the couple of the best that I've mentioned, but even like Silver Collar winner Cheeky Bonnie in 2007, and just about every race that you can imagine at the elite level on the card, the Schofields have got their name on. Look, our sincerest condolences to David's parents, Dennis and Pam. Pam still races dogs. Actually got a new stayer in tomorrow, Zipping Monty at Cambridge with Ben Craik, and also to David's partner Ingrid. Our best wishes with them this week. So from that, Philippa, we'll move to the bets of the week, and you've sorted out some that hopefully can put us in clover. And speaking of that distance race at Cambridge, which is undoubtedly the race of the week at 2:20 on Thursday afternoon, you're going with Dinah Wesleyan.
I am. Like you said, it's a very good field, but I thought, her win two back, she showed her old self, and she was so unlucky last time. So I think she's back to her best, and she could take it out from box number 1. Also, another dog that's well boxed back at Addington on Thursday is Gem. She comes up with box number 1 in race number 9. The freshened, and also Alan, he takes on Rocket Raccoon off box number 1. He comes up with box 2. He'd been drawing out wider, so I think maybe that'll suit him. And Corbin Assist Friday at Hattrick there comes up with the first box 1 in some time, and maybe an each-way play.
Yes, that distance race sees the return of Dusty Gambler, and we also have dogs like Don't Knock a G and Corborn Taylor in there as well. So catch that race if you can. 2:20, race 9, Cambridge Thursday. Now, Andy McCook has gone with Astrid at Addington on Thursday. That's race number 7 on the card, dog 8. He's gone with Gem as well. Cisco Rain, number 2, with an improved draw at Addington Friday. One to watch out too for me. Friday night, race 6, number 1, Chalet Palais, downgraded and dangerous. Evie Raptor, I thought, would probably win on Monday. Race 3, number 4, Take the Shorts. Kennelmate Vibe, race 9, number 8, looks good each way there at the very least. And Gaz's Girl in each way play. She's going well over the 457. She meets a nice field there, but that's the DogZone dollars for the week. Phillipa Morris, great to have you on board, and looking forward, of course, next week to the Derby Heats, and you'll be there for the final on the 18th, and it could be one of the races of the season.
I think so. There's so many good contenders this year, Ros. I'm really looking forward to it, and thanks for having me on the show once again.
It's us done, dusted. DogZone for another week. The Derby will dominate next week. Until then, happy punting.